welcome to another episode of the Deep Dive with E and K. I'm E.
And I'm Kay.
So, for today's topic, we're going to be talking about love and loss and answering the old age question of, is it better to have loved and lost or never have loved at all? And so, for today's episode, we have a special guest that's going to be joining us. So, without further ado, please welcome Tessie. Hi, Tess.
Hello.
Hi, Tess.
So give us a quick introduction of who you are, your name, what do you do, anything you want to share.
Sure. So my name is Tessia Stewart, but as you know, and you can hear, I go by Tess. Professionally, I am an instructional learning designer.
Educator.
Fun. Yeah, so that means I am all things technology, all things design, all things like instructional, all of that in a bag of chips. For fun, I like to travel.
Yes, she does.
She does. She's a world traveler.
Stamps in my passport are important. I am a Sochaholic.
We just need a moment
When I think of you, Tess, I always picture you in them boots stomping.
Don't get with that ting. The one that t-shirt fish in my home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not stomping. It's chipping.
Chipping on the
all my soca heads out there. It's chipping.
Yeah. Right. And I guess for anything else, like I'm on my calm side, I guess you can say, catch me with like my laptop with Netflix and on my couch. I'm good to go. Like I'm calm.
All right.
So we want to say thank you for joining us for today's episode. We're saying the episode is, the topic for today is loved and lost. And we're going to be all talking about our personal experiences and answering the question, is it better to have a loved and lost or to never have loved at all? So we can start with you, Tess. How would you answer the question and why?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I'm actually very conflicted with that question and my response to it. I'm an optimistic person, so I would want to say deep down that it's better to love and lost, but my reality tells me that it's probably best to never love at all. Being optimistic, you're naive in a sense, because you don't see the full truth or you refuse to see the full truth. So with that, the reality for me is to never love. For me, that is so that I wouldn't have to deal with the reality of knowing and losing. I guess the question of the what ifs or the suspense of it would compensate for the actuality or like the truth of it. This is like a very crazy and wild example, but I feel like it's fitting for this. So for example, in my mind, actually, let me paint a picture for you guys since you kind of can't really tell in my picture here. I am 5'5.5", about 235 pounds. So curvy, visual, that is me. In my mind, I can do a backflip. In reality, I will probably break my neck.
I'm done.
And the not knowing for me is why I would say it's better to never love, because I can sit with knowing that the thought of thinking that I can or being able to achieve that is better than facing actually having to try it and having a broken neck.
That makes sense. What about you, Carrie? How would you answer that question?
So I'm actually on the opposite end of what Tess explained. Although I am optimist, like, please, I assume the best of everyone and I love everyone, although I need to be more discerning, but, I'm working on that. But very much I would have rather loved and loss. And the reason for me is the learning experience. And although I don't want to have to always learn in a way that is hurtful, for me, it has really been a journey in getting to know who I am. I wouldn't say that I was like set up to really from the start know who I am. So unfortunately, through the losses, I've learned more about who I am because I've learned how I love. I've learned just all, like those things, those deep things about me. So as much as it hurts to lose, like I hate to lose, like whether that's in family, not just in like relationships, but like in friendships, in family, like although I hate to lose, like loss is never good. It does teach me a lot about who I am as a person. But as I'm older and learning more about who I am, I feel like each of those loving experiences and those losing experiences have been experiences that have shaped me in the kind of person that I am. So it does suck. I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it has been helpful in my development. So I would choose love and loss. Yeah.
Got it.
What about you, Esther?
So I've been on both sides, like in truth. So before, when I was like much younger, I'm like, I want to say younger because, you know, for some people we're still young, but when I was younger, it was completely never loved at all. And I think for me, it was just the idea of like having my heart broken or feeling pain and like having to love somebody that much and like losing them in any capacity was something that just was so unbearable, but also was really not in touch with my emotions. So like it just was so unbearable to me that I was just like, nah, I'm good. Like seeing me, myself, and I over here, like, you know, Q and Beyonce. But like I really, really was just not about that life. Whereas now I'm more leaning towards love and loss, just for similar reasons as you stated about the learning aspect of it. Like you do learn from that person, and then like you know, it's like you tap into yourself better, you learn how to be more vulnerable, and like the experience I feel like helps you to grow in a way, like even if it ends horribly, even if it doesn't end horribly, I feel like it forces you to have to grow up and like dig deeper and work on yourself in a way that like I know for me, I probably wouldn't have done that level of self-work in that way, or really know, like, because usually it's those kind of situations that lead you to whatever that self-work is. And so now I'm at the place where love and loss, but I also understand the other side because, like I said, I was there before in my past. It's just, I think, like, where life has taken me now, I'm more like, yeah, I think love and loss is more of like the reality that I sit in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Something that I just thought about was about different types of loss and how like there can be like love and there can be loss through like, if you're thinking romantically, like a physical breakup, then there could be loss through like, you know, death or however the sense is. So like, I think as you were speaking, I was thinking deeply more about my answer too, and about how like I wonder if my answer would have changed depending on the type of loss I experience. Don't get me wrong, I've had love and loss and a breakup, and I've felt some type of way to the point of like I don't trust anybody. I don't even trust myself to make decisions, and that's why I'd rather not love at all. But you know, I feel like those are repairable for me personally. Those have become repairable easier, than if it was like I were to never see this person again, or I would never to be able to experience this person again, or whatever the case may be. So I think like as you were speaking, I was just thinking a lot about like it also depends on the type of loss and like, you know, what that would mean for that person and things like that. So that was just on my mind, but I completely like agree and hear like what you're saying. That's a good point.
Yeah, just to piggyback to that, like I agree 100%. That's what I'm saying. Deep down inside for me, I would want to say, but my reality says otherwise. So I want to rather love and loss. Just, I guess I'll put in like a personal experience. So I'm at a point where I have loved and lost. So my boyfriend recently passed away 2 months ago to COVID-19. So now I'm at a standstill where I've loved and lost. So But in my reality, I was just like, Dad, what if we never rekindled what we had? I would have just been good.
Mhm.
With just like that breakup, because I mended from that. You know, we had broke up, we stopped talking, and then I was in a sense healed to move on. And then, you know, for whatever reason, we got back together. Everything was working out fine, and we were back on track, better than we were before. And then here comes this hit of loss. So I'm on both sides of the spectrum, but my reality wants to tell me just to never lost, just to avoid that pain.
Yeah. I actually have a quick question if I can ask, like, do you feel like given like your reality, what you mentioned, is your feeling to never love again based on like the experience you're like that you currently have, or is it based on like even before that? More so, when did you like settle in on like I'd rather never love at all?
So I'm actually, it's crazy that you just asked that. So I'm actually at that point now, because my boyfriend before the one that passed, he cheated on me. So that was right there. And then I'm like, okay, I healed. I got back to the point mentally where I'm like, okay, I can date again. And then I start this new relationship, and now he passes away. So now I'm at the point like, well, shit, excuse my language, but
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that's real.
I'm at the point where I'd rather just not, because
Yeah.
when I tried the first time, you know, fool me once, fool me.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I don't even need a third time for you to fool me. You know, the 3 strikes are out. I'm not even going up to the plate to hit. Like I'm at that stage now. And I'm completely like shut down to that. So that's where I am currently. God's willing, I'll be able to move if it's meant to be. But I'm now like guarded up, lock and key, cement walls, bricks, the whole 9. She's not available.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And do you think it's like, because I know you guys were basically in love, and like, you know, for you that was like the person you were going to spend the rest of your life with? Do you think it's because it was that kind of love and not just, not to say another boyfriend, but you know what I mean, like because it was so deeply rooted and you guys were in love? Do you think that makes the impact that much worse, or do you think it's just the idea of losing somebody you care about?
I think it's more so losing someone I care about. So, truth be told, like I was never in love with him, but I had an ultimate number. Like I super, super, super had crazy feelings. Like I loved him to death. That's like, but I was not in love, and that now comes with the whole never love type stuff. Because you know, with the fear, I don't even think I could probably even fall in love, because I'm so guarded and I'm so just sheltered with my feelings and like how things will happen. I don't even think I'm capable of doing so. But I had very, very strong feelings for him, and I loved him like a lot. So with that, it's just
No, I mean, everything you're saying makes sense. And we had put this question out there on our Instagram as a poll, and we got like different responses from people. But like one of our followers basically said that back in the day, I'm reading this from her, so bear with me. But she was like, her when she was younger, she asked her grandmother, would she ever date again? After losing her grandfather, who was her one true love, is how she used to refer to him as. And her grandfather died like more than 30 years ago, and her grandmother just passed away last year. But she was like, no, like that was my one true love. I'm good. I don't need to do this again. I don't need to relive it again. I've had my one true love and I'm good. And then I also think about my own grandmother, who my grandfather passed in 2003. And she's still alive, but she doesn't have any interest of connecting with anybody else. She's just like, I have my one true love and I lost him. And she always kind of describes it as if like half of her died with him. And I see the change in her, but like it's literally like half of her died with him, and she just is like, I'm good. I don't really need to ever experience it again, because I had that love and then they're gone and I just can't bear the idea of going through it again. So I feel like it's something there, right? Something happens to people when you get that kind of loss, because breaking up with somebody is like, you know what, it hurts, it sucks, but like, okay, you move on. Like, you never know what could happen down the line, but like, death is final, so there is no coming back from that.
Yeah, like you can't even, it's hard, like you can't even rekindle anything or like apologize if you want to, or say the last words that you really meant if you did like feel that love. Like you can't even express that for real. Like, so I hear what you're saying with that, Esther. Yeah.
One of the questions we have for tonight is like, and Tess kind of answered this, but like, have you ever been in love? And so, I mean, Carrie, like, because people sometimes are like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does it even mean to be in love? And like, how do you even know you're in love? Like, so do you feel like you've ever been in love?
Listen.
Why you look like you need a drink?
Honestly.
They look like you stressed.
I am actually stressed because like when I was dating the men I was dating, I thought I was in love. And when I really took a deep look at what love is and what it means, it's far beyond my superficial, like movie storytelling love. Okay, like just because you cuddle me at night, don't love me. So that's a great question. So like just because you cuddle me at night don't mean you love me. Just because you buy me roses doesn't mean you love me. Just because you text me and call me. And so I thought like, unfortunately, movies were the inspiration to my love life. Like, let's be real. And my parents, like, because I've only seen from my parents, like the lovey-dovey side, like I've really never seen them argue or anything of that nature. So my vision and idea of love came from movies and came from the positive things I've seen from my parents. So when those positive things happened to me, so when the man bought me the flowers and the guy did this and the guy did that and all that stuff, I thought that was love, because I would have feelings of butterflies, intense butterflies. And for some reason, I thought those intense butterflies were love. Honestly, even to my adult age, I have to check myself, like, Carisha, just because you feel those intense butterflies don't mean that it's a love. You're just having a really joyful feeling or happy feeling. It's a feeling. However, feelings change like the weather. One day it's sunny, next day it's rainy, next day it's cloudy. Like, you can never judge your life based on feelings. You have to judge your life based on something that's a little more grounded and certain. And the thing with love is unconditional. Love is unwavering. Love doesn't change up on you. Like, just because I don't like you, that don't mean I don't love you. And I've had experiences in relationships where, looking back, I don't really know what to call it. I don't want to call it like lust, because it wasn't that either. And it wasn't like, but I also know it wasn't love. So for me, I would say yes, I was in love, but then I also question that love, because I'm like, girl, were you just were you just real emotional and butterfly-y and in your feelings and all warm and googly, or did you really love this man?
But you're right, though. So you said, what is love? Aren't you, for your whole person, supposed to define that for yourself?
That's a good point.
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like that's what probably makes it confusing, right? Because
everyone has their own definition.
Like, what are we basing it off of? Is it based off how we feel or we think we feel, or is it based on like what we hear love is? So I think that's what makes it confusing, where people are like, have I ever been in love? I don't know. Like, was that love or was it not? Because what I can describe as love for me may be very different than what you would describe as love for you. But I feel like we kind of, society makes us feel like there has to be a universal answer. And I think maybe there isn't.
Right.
That's a good point.
But that's another thing, because when someone tells me, like, when he would say, I love you, I'm questioning, do you love me or are you in love with me? Because those
two different things.
Very.
Like I said, I love him to death. But again, I don't think I was at the point where I could be like, I am in love with you.
Yeah.
We have two different meanings. To me, that is. My ex, the one that cheated on me, he was, and this is why I think he's crazy, because he's in love with me, but yet you do. So I'm just like, what is your definition of love if you can
cheat?
Love, like, make it make sense there. But that's here nor there. But
right.
it all just it depends on how you defined it for self, and then like what is to love or to be in love. It's just two different. Or if you see it as one or one of the same, then I guess.
I definitely
see
don't.
it as two different things. Like I've loved, and I feel like I've also been in love. I feel like being in love is more of an intense feeling. Like it's more somewhat of like an outer body experience. Like it sometimes feels like you're watching yourself like going through it, and I feel like
I'm trying to be in your kind of love, like, because that's not what I be feeling. Like, but out of body, like, hold on. But
no, but it's like it forces you to be more vulnerable and more open, which for me was like very uncomfortable because I mean that's not my reality. I mean, shit, I'm West Indian, like feelings. What are those? You know,
What are those?
Talk about it.
Love or like
Love? What's that?
whereas love, I feel like you can stay in your comfortable place.
Yeah.
And love forces you to be extremely uncomfortable. For me,
Yeah.
you nailed it.
Esther, that is good. That is good right there, because when you talk about being in love forces you out your comfort zone, and you also said words like it forces you to be vulnerable. Like the words you're using to describe being in love sounds different than just like love.
right?
Yeah.
Because you can't. It really forces you to be uncomfortable because like the feelings are so different that you're like, no, like I need to tap deeper. I need to do like I just need to be more open. Where I feel like I really, because I've loved, right, in the past I've loved, but I was like, but I ain't doing all that for you. Like,
right.
you know,
It's almost like you want to be the best version of yourself for this person, and if that means being open, vulnerable, whatever the case may be, you're willing to do that. Yeah. Like honestly, I feel like in love is kind of what I explained about being unconditional. So I read this book that I didn't finish, so I didn't really read the book. But anyway,
yes.
don't judge me. But it's called.
Started reading a book.
That's why like I start reading books and I never finish them. I need to get it together. Anyway. But the book is called Never Settle, and in the beginning of the book he describes unconditional love, and essentially he says unconditional love is when you like love someone and have no need for them to like do anything for you back.
Yes.
And when I read that, like I was like, "What you talking about?" But he was saying like he explained in the book how a man had a wife that had Alzheimer's. And that woman, obviously you have Alzheimer's, you can't remember your man, you don't remember nothing, you just like hair or whatever. But he had an unconditional love that even when Shorty didn't remember his name, he still did whatever he needed to do for her because he loved her unconditionally. There were no conditions to the love he had for her. At the end of the day, that was his wife. And when I read that, I thought I had a different perspective about like what it means to be in love and like how love is unconditional in that way, because like for someone to forget my name and I'm still out here like loving on you, what? Like that's just, to me in my mind, I'm like, you bugging. But for real, it like to me, like as I heard that, when I read that, I really realized that like to be in love is like it goes beyond your feelings, it goes beyond your situation, it goes beyond the conditions of your relationship. It's like, I don't like you, but I love you. You get me mad, but I'm gonna celebrate your birthday. I'm mad at you right now in this moment, but I'm gonna buy you those roses because I love you. Like, you know, like it just goes beyond the feeling, beyond whatever it is that you're experiencing. And like when I think about my situations and whether I've been in love, I can't say that I've been in love to the point that I would go beyond the situation. Like, I don't know about all that. Like, you tried me, so I'm not about to sit here and rub your feet because I love you. So I realized that like maybe those experiences weren't me being in love, because if I was in love, I would be willing to sacrifice and lay down everything. Now I'm thinking about what you said, Esther, about being out of body. That makes sense, because when you love unconditionally, you're literally beside yourself. You're outside of yourself.
Because it's no longer about just
it's
you.
no longer about you.
Yeah.
You're doing things that are beyond your feelings, beyond your thought process, beyond your emotions. Like you're just doing it because that person,
even if they never give anything back to you,
even if they don't give anything back to you,
that even if they don't love you the same way, you're okay with it.
Okay, so I have a question. Just to step back from what we were talking about of being in love and to love, do you guys, in the state of knowing that you have love for this person, say I love you to or back to them?
So your question is, do you say that you love them?
Yeah, like
Even
do
if you
if you're ending a call and like I love you, babe, do you say I love you too?
Okay, so can I answer that?
Go ahead.
So, listen, for all the people listening, I do love you.
Patty.
I need to preface with that because sometimes I have people that's like, love you, girl, or I love you. And I'm like, love you too. But I say it because just my love for you has levels. Like there's people that I love like a brother and a sister and like a mother and a father. Then there's people that I love like an intimacy relationship, which would only be like the men I date. And then there's people that I love on the real superficial level. Like, I mean, like, I love you, but it is because I do love you. Like if something were to happen to you, genuinely, I would feel some type of way. But I do actually say it back. And I don't know if that's the same for you both. Like I know Esther is really careful with her words. So I know she is not like me in that way. But I do know that I say it back. And like, it might sound like a word that's getting thrown around real loosely, but like when I say it, for the most part, it's because I really do care about you. It's not because I'm like in love with you or whatever the case is, but I care. So we can change the word to even like, all right, see you later. I care about you.
So now, like, okay, so
Pause. I don't say words that I don't mean, and I don't use words loosely. Because see, the thing about me is that like I grew up in a household that never said that word. Like I love you. Like my father has said that once to me, and that was as an adult, and it was like, oh, this is weird. And then my mom, the first time she said it to me was after I had gone off to college. So I guess, like, and now she'll say it like every once in a while. So like I didn't grow up in a household that said that. So even the idea of saying that word to me was so awkward and so uncomfortable and literally like made me cringe. Like it was just like I would say thank you before I even say I love you. So now that I'm at the place where I'm comfortable saying it, I do say it to people. And if like they say that to me and I mean it, I will say it back. But if I'm not feeling that in that moment, I'll give you a hug and smile, be like, or thank you. But I'm not gonna say it because like I know what it's like to never hear it. And so it means a lot to me. So if I say I love you, know that I really do love you and care about you. If I don't say it, well, it's not that I don't care. It's just maybe I don't.
You're not at that level yet.
Yeah. It's nothing personal.
So yeah, what about you, Tess?
It's not a loose phrase, to say the least. So with my ex that passed, I would say I love you too when he used to say it to me, but he also had an understanding that I was not in love with him.
Okay.
So if he like, the good nights or the I'll talk to you later, love you, babe, I'm like, love you too, because of course I do love him, but he that I was not in love with him. So he couldn't take that phrase to mean more than what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that so I've been watching Married at First Sight. I feel like it's a quarantine thing because I was never interested in this show before. But Pastor, what's his name? Pastor whatever, the black man, the pastor, whatever his name is, said that he doesn't believe in the concept of falling in love. Like he said that he doesn't believe that falling in love is a real thing. He believes in growing in love, and that like you can grow in love and that you can love somebody because like love is ever changing, and like in relational dynamics, like love is going to change. There's going to be good and bad times, but you can grow in love. He doesn't believe in the concept of falling in love. And I don't know, like I don't even really know what that means, but like I mean, do you think that maybe is a more realistic concept, the idea of growing in love than falling in love?
I honestly, I think as you were speaking, I was just thinking like, who coined the phrase falling in love in the first place? Because falling, really, just the aspect of falling just seems it seems like lack of security. It seems it seems like a risk. When you fall into something, you're not thinking. Like, you just go, you know, and like,
The
just,
repercussion to that is pain, so it hurts. I don't want to.
yeah, like I honestly don't even think I like that term of fall. I don't want to fall in love, to be honest with you. I don't want to fall nowhere. Like, I don't even want to trip on the side of the road. Like, I'm good. Like, you know, like, to be honest, growing in love is, I feel like, more of what we experience, because when you meet someone for the first time, or when you meet someone for, you know, you meet for a couple of like weeks or months and you get to know them and whatever, like, you know, you're essentially not falling in love with them. You're rather more so growing in love with them. You're getting to know them. You're getting to understand them. And the love is growing. It's developing. It's getting bigger and bigger. Whereas to fall, to me, just kind of feels like a risk. It feels like, oh, boom, like flat on your face, like ouch kind of thing. Or it just doesn't feel like there's much security there, you know?
What about you, Tess? Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, to fall in love, I hear pain.
Yeah, right? To fall, I hear pain. Fall, pain.
Exactly. Like, I'm falling
Right.
into pain.
I'm falling into
I
pain.
mean, that probably is why some people do, like, the fear, right? That's where the fear comes from. Like, I know, like, just wanted to pull her up real quick, but like one of the people who answered our poll said that they answered like never loved at all, and they're like, maybe it's the way I see it, but loving someone who means the world to me and then losing them just like that would take a toll on me so much that I don't think I can take the pain. And I know this happens with most people, where it just drives them crazy. So yeah, loving them is the pro of the situation, and losing them, I don't think I would like experience the quote unquote lost part the way the lost part, and that's why I chose my answer. So I feel like the pain part, like the idea of just like losing, because the thing is, like, you know, we talked about the debt part, but like sometimes people fall in love and then that, or grow in love, whatever you want to say, like, and then the person hurts them so deeply, like they just never recover. Like, I know this woman who she loved that man. When I say she loved that man, like she would do anything for him. They got married, they loved each other, and they were at some point, she was in Haiti when I knew her, and he moved to the United States. And when he moved, he fell in love with somebody else, or started loving somebody else, whatever, in the States, and ended up divorcing her. And then the marriage thing just fell apart. That was like, I want to say like 10 years ago. She still has not recovered. Like, she just cannot allow herself to ever open up and trust another man in that way again, because he hurt her so deeply. So I feel like maybe that is the point that scares people, is like the idea of being, because a lot of times when you love somebody, like you kind of lose a little bit of control, right? Because of you're not in control of those emotions, like you know. And so I think the idea of being that lost is scary.
I actually like thought about, I have a friend that hasn't really embarked on a relationship as yet. But the other day was mentioning that, you know, the reason why she hasn't embarked on a relationship as yet is because all of her examples of relationship hasn't been good. And like, that's the reason why she doesn't feel confident enough to do that. She feels like it's scary, like it's a risk. It's like putting herself out there in a way that, like, you know, based on her friends and her family and what she heard about love and all of that stuff, it makes her scared about doing relationships or anything with relationships. And I find that interesting, because it's like, wow, you've actually never fully experienced that, like had that experience, but you feel so strongly that, like, I'd rather not have love because I see what love does to people, and I don't want that experience, or I don't want, you know, to feel like the way my friends or family have been feeling. So it kind of ties back to a little bit what you're saying, Esther, about like just feeling like, you know, you love someone so deeply and then just like forget it, like I'm almost like jaded or whatever. But it's like she's jaded without having the experience, which is like
interesting. And so earlier, me and my cousin, like, spent 2 hours on the phone just like catching up or whatever. But she was saying, you know, like in her experience of dating, she was saying that like one of the things she's noticed is that what our generation sucks when it comes to dating. Like that's a fact.
We
Let's
need
just
to
own
rewind.
it. Let's just own it. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of fear of commitment. But she was like, yo, I keep coming across these men who are more comfortable with having a baby than the commitment of marriage.
As if a baby is not a whole commitment. Like,
But I feel like that's what it is. Like I feel like it's the pain. Like the people just don't want, because the thing is like a lot of times too, the pain can be so severe that really some people really don't recover from it. But I also feel like even when like having experienced pain, I'm like, there's also a clarity that comes from love. Like, how do you know what you want out of a relationship? Like, how do you know what your gut, like, because you can say, oh, I'm not gonna, like, these are my non-negotiables, but until you've gone through some heartbreaks and stuff like that, I don't know, like, maybe this is like just jaded in my perspective, but I don't know how I would know what I know now if it wasn't for my experiences.
I agree with that. For me, like, it's honestly more like experience and loss versus like love and loss kind of thing. The experience of having that love, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. I'm grateful for the experience because I've learned so much, and I've learned like what I want and what I don't want. And I've learned how to identify in men what I want and what I don't want.
So I guess that leads to the next question. Like, if you've never loved, can you miss what you never had?
Yeah, go ahead, Tess.
I think I might have to contradict myself with this response.
And that's fine. It's okay.
Girl, you are a woman. That's your prerogative.
Right, you get to do that.
I guess ideally I would say it's doable to not miss what you've never had. However, seeing and hearing, or even being in like the atmosphere of the what is to be in love specifically, will make you think and envision kind of what that is. If y'all get
that's a good point. That's a good point.
It's like a secondhand experience for me, even though I'm not the one who do it. It's a secondhand experience because she, her, like 8 out of my 10 girls are going through this. This is traumatic to me, and it's not even my relationship.
I also think too, it's like, so I know like in the past, I've been guilty of this. Like, I mean, I don't do this anymore, but in the past, and many of us women are guilty of this, is that we go to our friends when it is bad, but they don't always get to see the good. So it's like, on one hand, you're experiencing the trauma, but then that's also why it's like, oh, why are you still with him? Because maybe that, you know, bad was like a 10% of like, or 90%, but you only get to see and hear about the 10%. So the 10% may create a jaded experience for you, but then you don't get to see the pillow talks and like the other aspects of it, because sometimes we can be guilty of just sharing that piece of it with our friends. And
That's very true.
So I also challenge with that too. And then also too, I feel like it's super easy to have an objective perspective when you're not in it, because you can kind of just look at it from like your lens of what you're seeing. But like when you're in it, there's a whole slew of other emotions and things that are happening that only the two people in it are experiencing. And some of those feelings you can't even articulate in words.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I also like come back, like I also think about that too. So it's like it's like basically in a way, I mean, this probably is like a pretty shallow, stupid example, but I also feel like it's like one of the dream places that I want to go one day is Paris, right? And I feel like it's one thing to watch movies, it's one thing to hear people talk about it, it's one thing to see pictures, but until I go and experience Paris, I haven't really experienced Paris.
That's actually a spot on example. That's a great example, because it's one thing to hear about it and it's one thing to be in it, and you feel it's two different things.
Yeah. So I feel like you know, and I even had an experience once where my plane got like delayed. So I was on my way to Mali and the layover was in France. And so they gave us a hotel and they had us stay in this little village in France. I walked outside, I got to see the little neighborhood, but to me, I still didn't get to experience Paris. Like until I eat the food, like really eat the food and see the Eiffel Tower and really like get a full experience and visit the Louvre and like go to museums, I haven't experienced Paris. So I don't even count my little quick one night stay in France because like what is that? So I feel like that's the part I like, you know, kind of struggle with, because I'm like, on one hand, everything you guys said has a lot of validity to it, because it can be traumatic. Because I think about like friends I have whose parents went through horrible divorces and or like really toxic relationships, and the impact that it has on them and their psyche and how they see relationships. But then at the other side, I'm like, but do you really know, or do you think you know based on what you saw and only the parts you saw?
Right.
Yeah.
Very contradicting. Like it's a tug of war with what you think, what you know, how you feel, what you see. So it's
like at the end of the day,
how
you feel about love is all based on your perspective and your experiences. What you see, what you know, what you watch, what you whatever. Like it's based on the individual, and like it is hard. Like it is hard to really like answer this question, because it's like, you know, if you don't have that experience, you can't speak to that. And if you speak to it, you're gonna speak from a place of like
that only
of the unknown almost, because it's like you don't really know until you know, right? Like
and it is a tug of war even internally, because sometimes your heart and your head may not be in agreement.
Oh my goodness, the heart and the head.
World War III. Okay.
You know, like I think about like my ex, right? Like it was like my heart was like, I love you and like we can make this work, and my head was like, sis, you are tripping, like abort like
right. Yeah
because even infidelity, right, like when you've never experienced it, you can have a clear
perspective on it. I would never date a man who cheats on me. Yeah.
See, now this goes back to me now, because
go ahead.
I love my ex, you know, that cheated on me, but I wasn't in love with him. So off rip, it was like, oh, you cheated, I am out. My mind was the dominant in this. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I love you, I got love for you. Oh, you cheated, I'm not that much invested, I'm out. Like,
so the crazy thing, Tess, is in my last relationship, I was the opposite. I was like, you cheated on me? Dang, you cheated on me? Why would you do that? And you cheated with a friend of ours. Like, what? Like, how could you do that? And my ass done took homie back. Not quickly, but I took him eventually. Oh, yeah. And like, yeah, it wasn't easy for me to be like, all right, dust it off.
Were you in love?
Was I in love? But so that goes back to what I said earlier, right? About how at the time and where I was in my life, I would have called that love. Because I was like, it was my honest. I don't know if lust is the word. Like, I don't want to call it lust, because lust, I don't feel like lust.
How about deeply infatuated?
Yes, infatuation. Thank you, Esther. Yes, thank you. Infatuated. I was infatuated with the idea of love, and I was infatuated by him because he displayed that idea of love at one point.
It is possible to be in love or fall in love with love, with the idea of love, and not the person.
Because infatuation will make you feel like you're in love, because like there is a distinct difference between lust and love, and infatuation and love, or whatever. Like I said, love is more unconditional. Lust is more like
I want to jump your bones all the time.
Right. Lust, right. Lust is really superficial, but infatuation blurs the line between the two, because you don't really know, like, do I love him or do I just want his body? Like, what's going on? Like, it's really, it tricks your mind to think that it tricks you. And like at that time, like, Tess, to your question, infatuation is the best word. I don't know though, now that I think about it, I wonder if I was more infatuated with him or if I was more infatuated with the idea of love.
That's valid, especially when you know your love languages and they display that. So then now you're like, dang, is it him or is it the thought of quote unquote love.
So I guess my last question is, is the loss worth all the pain?
In the moment, no. In the moment, no. The pain sucks. It honestly, for me, the pain makes me second guess myself, and that's the part that sucks, and that's the part that's actually more painful than the loss. It's like, yo, like, did I not, like, I didn't trust myself to believe that I deserved more. But then when you overcome that hump of sadness, hurt, pain, for me, I grew. It's almost like a phoenix, right? Like, you know, a phoenix that comes out of the fire. Like,
Ashes.
yeah, that rises out of the ashes. Like the ashes are essentially like, you feel that burn of the pain, of the hurt, of the suffering, or whatever, of the beating up on yourself, or whatever the case is. But then you rise out and you're a better person. You're a new person. You've learned about yourself. You begin to really love on yourself, and you're like, no, I deserve more. I will never let anyone do X, Y, Z, W, Y, whatever the alphabet is to you again, or whatever. So like, essentially, like, for me, it was just it was an uprising of a newness, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's initial. Like, initially, you don't feel that.
That's, what about you?
I honestly couldn't have said it any better. Like, that's literally what it is. Like, the pain is there, and it's not going to be a quick fix, but the lessons that comes from it after is like, that's where it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
At first it's not, because no one wants to go through that pain, but the end result to going through that pain is worth it. You learn more about yourself, you know, more self-awareness, you know, your do's and don'ts, your red flags, what you are going to tolerate, what is not tolerable. You learn so much about self, relationship, your expectations, the whole nine, that long term, yes, it's worth it. For the right now, it's gonna be painful.
Take time, yeah. No, I couldn't have said it better than both of you put it. I think, like, definitely the experiences, the growth that you gain and from yourself, and the perspective, like, even I would say, like, what I thought I wanted in partners, be pro relationships, and like what I would want, and looking at where I am, like, now, like, just the clarity of like what do you actually want and what do you actually care about is very different. Like, it gives you a better insight, and it basically helps you to have better perspective. So like, I definitely would agree with everything you both said. So Tess, we want to say thank you so much for joining us for this episode. So where can our listeners connect with you, find you?
I am on Instagram at Ruby_Moscato. That is my handle.
Like the wine, right?
Ruby like the gem. That is my birthstone. So
yes, Ruby Estubia. That's my nickname, so can't steal it. But yeah.
So yes, we thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your perspective and really sharing your story. And we thank you for your vulnerability. Like, I hope our listeners can connect with everything that was said today. And we would love to hear from you all. What is your perspective? Do you think it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all, and why?
And Miss Ruby, you will be back again. So don't think that this is just a one-time deal. We will see you soon. So thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive.
Yes. And to our listeners, please comment, subscribe, like, follow.
Share with your friends.
Please do so. And we will catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive with Ian K. Bye.
Bye.